we're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this. And I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com. Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program on this Johnny Cash Friday. For the first time, I believe, we have Miss Iris Stevens is with us. Iris is the Northeast Arkansas Tea Party coordinator. Iris, welcome to the Paul Harrell program.
Thank you very much, Paul.
I'm really glad you could be here with us, and I appreciate it. I know you have been an activist for limited government for a really, really long time. Real quickly, tell us how you first got started involved in the Northeast Arkansas Tea Party and the limited government movement.
Okay, they're separate issues because I've been involved in activism basically since 1983 when I was opposed to Bill Clinton's teacher test. And I don't even know how much you know about that. I think your mother was a teacher. But that probably began my lifelong career in being opposed to governmental overreach. But I took over the Tea Party about, 3 or 4 years ago when the gentleman who was leading it left to move back to Wisconsin, and I just couldn't see something that we'd worked so hard for dissolving, so I took the coordinatorship for it. Our Tea Party here began in 2009, just like the National Tea Party movement began. And at that time, we had about 1,000 people show up on the courthouse lawn.
Yes.
Here in Jonesboro, and it was remarkable. You know, you remember you spoke there.
Yeah, I do. I just started my radio program, so.
Exactly, and it was a wonderful meeting, you know, and I got to share some experiences with overreach of government here as a landowner. We have a small farm in Poinsett County. And that's how, you know, my involvement with the Tea Party began, and it has grown. And I thought it was really funny listening to your show a while ago when you were talking about Senator Cooper's comments about the Tea Party extremists. And I thought, oh, and he's going, Paul is going to have a Tea Party extremist on his next hour.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, you know, it's amazing. I mean, we scheduled you to come on this program a couple of days ago, and I know I talked to you earlier in the week, but we nailed down the date today. And, you know, this email that John Cooper has sent came into my possession this morning. Listen, this is encouraging. The amount of people that sent this email to me is very encouraging. Because it just shows you that there are people that read this email and disagree with John Cooper, and they know where to go with it. And
I probably had about as many people call me about it as did you when they saw those comments about the Tea Party, because they know us.
Yes, that's exactly right. And so, hey, Joe, go ahead. Can you throw the email, Senator Cooper's email, back up on the screen for our online viewers? And, yeah, this is incredible that he is accusing the Craighead County Republican Committee of basically kowtowing to Tea Party extremists and that it's not going to happen anymore. I find it interesting, and Iris, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Jan Morgan was supposed to speak, and she got uninvited. And there's a lot of, there's different stories for why. But the fact is she got uninvited, and I think it's undeniable that there was pressure placed from the top. Granted, what we know about Mississippi County, it only bolsters the claims that, hey, the governor didn't want Jan Morgan to speak there. And so, as far as I'm concerned, the establishment had a win. But I do know that there are people on the Craighead County Republican Committee who don't like what's been going on in Little Rock. And so now you have John Cooper's message matching up specifically on talking points with Janet De La Rosa's all the way over in Benton County. We listened to that audio last hour. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts? It seems to be the establishment is now in a defensive posture, and they are trying to prevent debate and limited government ideas from even being discussed. What are your thoughts, Iris?
I think that's absolutely the truth. Now, I do happen to know that the Republican committee up here is inviting Jan Morgan. Like you said, there are a couple of different stories about that uninvite, but they have invited her to a Republican meeting, and she's going to be here, I believe, on November the 14th to speak to the young Republicans. So she's, the Republicans here are like the rest of us. They are very frustrated at what's going on in Little Rock. That at least the majority of them are. You've got your John Coopers and some of those people who are all for the government overreach, and what I like to say is in the governor's.
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for being with us today. My name is Paul, and you have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality where we are building a liberty machine. We need your help to do that. One of the ways that you can, help us is to call us or text us. The number 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. All right, we got a great show for you today. We're going to be doing our Conduit for Action quiz coming up an hour from now. So, Joe, you can get ready for that. The bottom of this hour, we've also got our Patriots of Act 746 weekly segment. And we're going to get to a little bit about GIF funding as well in the next hour. But first, there are allegations of voter fraud in Greene County, Arkansas. a lot of people have been aware of this story. It's been over a year now since the 2016 election, or almost a year, rather. We're coming up on a year since the 2016 election. And in the township of Shady Grove, which is inside Greene County, there was an election as to whether or not that township would continue to have the ability to sell alcohol, beer and wine at a particular convenience store. And there was some irregularities. And so the prosecutor for the 2nd Judicial District, Scott Ellington, he's been looking into this. And so what he did was he said, essentially came out recently, and he said that, we've been investigating, but we can't get a conviction on any of this, so we're not going to bring charges on anything. And so here to talk about that is concerned citizen, patriot, Mr. Bob Hester is on the phone. Bob, welcome to the program, sir.
Hello, Paul. Pleasure to be with you. Appreciate you asking me.
Absolutely. So I've got this headline in front of me, and we're going to put it up on the screen for those of you watching. It says it's by Sarah Morris of the Jonesboro Sun. It says, Hester, prosecutor's decision is an insult. So you think that the second judicial district prosecuting attorney, Scott Ellington, not bringing charges here is an insult. Can you elaborate on that, Bob?
Well, yeah, I can. When I found out that he was not going to do that, I've never been more angry in my life, and so I proceeded to take some actions and went to the Jonesboro Sun and all that sort of thing. The evidence is clear that something was done wrong. There was collusion to affect the outcome of that, or at least planned to affect the outcome of that election. It was probably stopped because of the attention, media attention that was brought to it. But whenever, I worked with the people up there to get the issue on the ballot, and then I know that when you have a alcohol election, there's usually some shenanigans going on. So I kept an eye on it, and discovered 30 new voters registered in 1 month's time. Went from 70, 73 to 103, I believe it was.
So there's the number of registered voters in this township called Shady Grove rose from 71 in September to more than 100 just weeks before the election.
Actually, about 30. Actually, the numbers would shift just a little bit. 73 to 103, basically. I drew his attention to the county clerk's office that there was about 5, I think, that was registered in the wrong township, and some things like that make those numbers just a little off by 1 or 2 or 3 numbers, depending on whatever. But basically, from 73 to 103.
Now, so this is a very small, very small election. A very small issue. A very few amount of people are going to decide what this issue was about. And and this is off of basically Highway 63. And I pass this location all the time. You're in Craighead County, and then you're in Greene County for just a moment. Then you're back in Craighead County. Craighead County's dry, Greene County's wet, and so it's one of these potential border effects. I mean, you understand why business-wise somebody would want to put in there. Right. And so, but if you drive by, or at least you drove by, you started behind the building. You started seeing trailers. And now, is that correct? So people were claiming that they were living there for a time, and these were the residences in these trailers so that they could vote. Is that what you think went on?
Yes, I was planning on keeping an eye on that, and I hadn't looked at it in a while, and somebody drew my attention to the fact that there was some campers and things being moved in to places. So I just drove around and looked, and I found quite a few of them got the new registration list and got those numbers and separated them by address and street like that, and located all those places, and that's what I found. Junker trailers and campers and things moved in, no utilities. Obviously, nobody lived there, and there was about 30 of them. Prosecutor, I think, only dealt with about 20. I don't think he had all the information that I had, but anyway, there was about 30. 13 were newly registered behind the Old Country Store. Mm-hmm. And 9 is another location, 4 is another location, and a couple is another location, and I think there might have been another location, but there was about 30 altogether.
So
and yes, they were just.
This is fascinating to me. No, I think this is fascinating, and I know
it's amazing. It's amazing.
What's interesting to me is so Scott Ellington, the attorney here, said he issued 21 subpoenas to appear for questioning on this issue, and that he didn't obtain any new information that would lead him to file charges. He's quoted in The Sun as saying, quote, "While there may have been sufficient evidence to charge one or more of those involved, I think there was not sufficient evidence to obtain convictions in those cases." What do you think of that, Bob?
I challenge that big time. That is ridiculous. I've got a copy of the letter that the Arkansas Board of Election Commissioners sent up. I obtained a copy of that today. Been going through it, and I wish I'd had time to got it earlier. But it encourages him to go ahead, and I can read you a few if we have time, some excerpts from that. But that's just absolutely absurd that there's not enough evidence to convict somebody. The commission indicates that there is, and encourages him to follow through with prosecution.
Really?
Yet he does not, for whatever reason. Who knows? Nobody can figure this out. I'm not the only one outraged about it. I can tell you some prominent folks that I know, and I won't call their names. Just about it. A couple of them are just as upset about it as I am.
Well, I want to hear what the commission said here in a minute. His quote goes on. "Therefore, I issued a warning letter to each, and then closed the file." The Sun reports that he said that there were questions about the individual's intent to commit a crime, and only 4 of the 21 individuals in question actually ended up voting in the election. Those 4 people lived in one house outside Shady Grove Township. And then he makes this comparison, which is interesting. He says, just like someone who is pulled over for driving with improper tags and then allowed to go on with a warning, this is your warning. So apparently, if you do commit voter fraud, or there's evidence to suggest you did, you can just get warned about it and everything will be okay. What do you think about that, Bob Hester?
I can't think of anything more ridiculous than that comparison of a crime, which I've been guilty of myself, of driving on expired tags, and a lot of people I'm sure have. It was an oversight on my part, and most of the time it is. Very rarely would it not be. Fine, court cost and all is $150. He indicated in the paper it was $250, but it's $125 actually. He indicated it was $250. And to compare that to a crime that's not purposeful and a misdemeanor at that, to a crime where you can get fined, federal crime as a matter of fact, up to $10,000, can get up to $10,000 fine. And the paper I looked at said $10,000. The commission uses $5,000, but anyway, 5 years, up to 5 years, 5 or 10 year prison. To compare those two, I've never heard anything more ridiculous.
Interesting.
Never have.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, you mentioned, I think in this piece where you were quoted as saying, voting fraud affects everybody versus tags, that's just affecting you. And it's
right.
It's not really hurting anybody else. Now, do you think, let me ask you this. So do you think that, the outcome of this particular election in this township, again, very small, it's just whether or not this township is going to allow the sale of beer and wine. And they're still selling it. Last time I checked, they're still open, correct? So the election went their way, correct?
Yes, but I think by about 12 votes, something like that.
Okay.
If you discount the 4 that illegally voted, I think it was about 12 votes.
So do you think he's not bringing charges here because he's like, well, it didn't really sway the outcome of the election, so there's no need to go forward with this? I'm just curious what you think.
Your guess is as good as mine on that. I can't imagine not, based on what the commission said and what the Greene County Commission information they have. I can't imagine him not bringing charges for whatever. I can't see any reason why not to.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows how it might have affected it.
Mm-hmm.
Nevertheless, whether it actually affected or not, they committed crimes. 30 people committed felonies, and there's evidence of it. All they got to do is get the registration form. And the evidence that there's nobody living in those places all the way up till now, or this letter from the commission, it was in May, I believe, or something like that. So all the way up to that point, nobody was still living in those places. There's no power to them, no electricity had been supplied.
That's crazy.
Nobody has moved into them yet.
That
How
is
much
so
more
nuts.
proof do you need?
That is so nuts. It's like something, that you would think would happen, voting fraud, or, election tricks like this, decades ago, but not now. And I kind of get the feeling, if crimes were committed here, you say crimes are committed, the law is the law, right? Aren't we supposed to respect the law? Aren't you supposed to apply the law dispassionately? And
if we're going to ignore this law, then we might as well get rid of election commissions. They're no good for anything because they have no say-so. Just one man can say, well, it's okay to break these laws, no matter what the situation is, how egregious they are, you can break these laws, and we won't do anything about it. Well, what's that going to do for law and order?
Yeah. What did the Election Commission say, Bob?
Well, let me see if I can I can get through this right quick. First of all, they only had jurisdiction over these 4 that voted, so they made that clear, and because it happened within those 4 happened within the 30-day period, whatever. But anyway, it says none of the potential violations occurred within our statutory window of authority. So the staff recommends the issue with relevant legal analysis be referred to District Prosecuting Ellington's office. So regarding those 4 who voted, it says, staff recommends the issue of voting based on an unlawful registration also be referred to Mr. Ellington's office with all the facts available. This recommendation will request further scrutiny be given to these 4 voters and appropriate charges be filed.
Wow. And, of course, no
Nevertheless,
charges are
these 4 who
filed.
voted and their attorney failed to assert that the 4 eventually abandoned their domicile in Walnut Ridge and take up residence in Greene County. They did not move.
Wow.
They did not move.
Wow.
The proof is there. I have proof of it. I could testify to it. The Jonesboro Sun reporter, somebody that has to do with it in Greene County, did the same thing. There's plenty of proof, plenty of people to testify that nobody ever moved into these places.
It's an open and shut. It just seems like an open and shut case. Yeah, it's frustrating. I feel like when this happens at a local level, okay, it just makes people respect the rule of law less. And in some cases, I mean, you had this guy, for example. I mean, I think instead of the government inventing new responsibilities to take care of us or, pay for our health care, why can't they just do the things that, I mean, this is something we would all agree, hey, you can't mess around with our elections, okay? I don't care what your intent, did you intend to commit a crime? I don't care, did you break the law or did you not break the law? I mean, it's the same thing. Exactly. It's different. I mean, you've got the criminal proceedings over there with that man that kidnapped that husband and the wife up in Fayetteville, held him at gunpoint. Thankfully, he was armed. He shot the guy, but and then they drove off, but his arm was bitten up really bad. This guy had been arrested for robbing a bank in January. He got out on bail. He fled to Florida. They extradited him back to Arkansas. He was arrested again. Then he got out again, and tried to kidnap these people so he could take their money and take them to a bank. And it's just like, okay, I think we can all agree. Okay, in the Republican Party, it's divided. Do we pay for a welfare program for able-to-work adults who don't want to work? Okay, but we can all agree that guy should have never been allowed, after being caught of robbing a bank, he should not have been allowed back out on the streets, and yet he was, and 2 people almost lost their lives. And it's the same. It's the same idea of this. Like, okay, it's very basic. You're violating like the most sacred thing that we do, which is go vote. You got to have integrity in that process, and then nothing happens. There's no charges brought. I just think that really hurts the confidence we have in government to do the basic things.
Absolutely, it's a crime. This situation you're talking about is terrible, or worse to the degree of what it is, but that affects a few people right there. Okay, this is a crime against not only these people in the Shady Grove, but the state of Arkansas and the United States, against the people. It's a crime against the people, and it ought to be dealt with, and it's going to have to be dealt with. This is just not right to not prosecute. Let me read. Could I read you something else right quick?
Yeah, we're running out of time, but yes, do.
When viewed, this is the Election Commission. When viewed in the context of the Shady Grove wet dry issue, staff finds that circumstantial evidence indicates that 11 individuals moving their voting residence to 4 trailers that have never had power since May of 30th, 2017, that's when this letter was, did so not on the basis of a legitimate change in domicile, but rather in order to influence this election. That's what they say. And the prosecutor has this. He has this information. There's some other things too that encourages him to go forward. He ignored all that.
Yeah. No charges are filed. Bob Hester, I appreciate it, sir. Thank you for everything that you. We appreciate you coming on the program, and thank you for just being that watchful eye, trying to keep government accountable. I certainly appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome, Paul, and I appreciate you very much.
All righty. Have a good day. Folks, we're going to take a break. The Liberty Machine rolls on, back in just a moment.
If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
In a world full of constituents with social media accounts, bloggers just looking to increase their page views, and a talk radio host who generally is just the worst, how are Little Rock's elite supposed to conduct business with such a lack of privacy? Introducing the 1835 Club, older and more refined than other clubs that claim discretion. The 1835 Club is for seasoned political veterans that want to conduct the highest form of aristocratic business with the public's money. Are you a schemer? Do you someday want a guaranteed flow of taxpayer money to support your business? Is it your dream to see the .gov domain at the end of your business website? Don't listen to the imitators. The 1835 Club is the place where corrupt politicians and businessmen hatch their next crony schemes. At the 1835 Club, we make lobbying safe and legal. Ethics. Why, of course. All business is done in an ethical manner. Just look for the sign above the door that reads, loophole. Are you tired of the Capitol Police restricting your access to the roof after a perfectly good night of drinking? The 1835 Club has libations and a perfectly good roof. Other crony clubs that promise discretion try to lure you in by advertising bars made out of aeroplanes. Well, at the 1835 Club, instead of an airplane fuselage, we've got a space shuttle. No, not a bar. We've got an actual space shuttle that makes a daily run to the moon so members of the 1835 Club can have some real privacy away from the bloggers and taxpayers. Are you an Arkansas aristocrat? Do you want to be? It's the 1835 Club, and we work tirelessly to make sure the good old boy system remains alive and well. Join today.
Disclaimer. The 1835 Club reserves the right to deny membership to anyone who has principles. Any talk of the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution must be done in jest or, at the very least, with a condescending tone. And finally, the 1835 Club will be given a 25% commission of any agreements made between politicians and the business community.
PHP Parody. Watch Paul live at paulharrell.com. It's free and available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Because the Liberty Machine never sleeps.
I will tell you, I have been inundated today by listeners who have sent me the same article or different versions of the same story, just posted to different sources. And it has to do with, I guess, the standard of integrity for the state of Arkansas. It has to do with Senator Jim Hendren. I don't know if any of you guys have seen this, but the headline here over at ualrpublicradio.org, top Arkansas politician uses labor from rehab work camp. And it's an interesting story. Feel free to check it out. Listen, I understand many of all of you, your interest in this story. It to me, it just means, our coverage of the Arkansas political system, who's in charge, has really an army of listeners and readers and subscribers out there becoming news hounds of your own. I mean, you guys in your own right are now catching on, and you're figuring out what stories to look for. This particular story has to do with Senator Jim Hendren's company participating in a drug rehab program where people, instead of going to rehab, they end up going to work. And Senator Hendren didn't know that they actually weren't getting paid. He was paying, I don't think paying the payroll tax, but he was paying the drug rehab company, or I'm sorry, the work company, paying them for the labor, but these people aren't seeing any of the labor, and now there's a lawsuit. This really all has to do with a lawsuit that was filed in Benton County and this Oklahoma company and everything else, and it's messy. That's all I'll say. It's just messy. Feel free to... Oh, by the way, did you hear, speaking of integrity, did you hear that we can now use the word lie when describing what these politicians do and say? Yeah, that's right. State Representative Charlie Collins, he said that the internet sales tax being called a new tax is a bald-faced lie. So apparently, it's okay to use the word lie. Back in a minute.
Welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, or our YouTube page, The Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Hip pocket.
That's right.
And, agree with everything he's doing, which is not what the vast majority of us who voted for him wanted. We did not want the Obamacare continued. We did not want this governmental overreach. We did not want the tax increases. And you've covered that with Conduit far better than I could do it. So, but the vast majority of Republicans, even the Republican committee here, agree with us on this issue. They are Tea Party attitude, but we're not extremists.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And matter of fact, if you just look, I believe Craighead County in the primary went for Ted Cruz. This is a constitutional movement based on, what the law says. Now, I do want to reiterate what you said. So the Craighead County Republican Committee, they are now have re-invited her back to speak, Jan Morgan. And that right there may be the reason why John Cooper's lashing out, because he's probably upset that they decided to re-invite her.
Yes, and I know that some of them are going to be attending the Mississippi County meeting where she is going to speak. And, of course, you may have covered the fact that supposedly the governor has purchased a table there at that event, which means it may be very interesting that evening. But I do know that because I've spoken to some of the committee members, and some of them have purchased, are going over there specifically to listen to Jan.
So, real quick, before we move on from this point, it is so ironic that John Cooper criticizes the Tea Party members. He would not be in office if it weren't for them, period.
Absolutely not. We spent money. We donated money. We worked tirelessly for this man. We wrote editorials for the paper. We knocked on doors. The Tea Party essentially helped him get into office. And it wasn't long before we found out we might have made a mistake.
And I feel the same way about the airtime, and because I believe what he said. I believed that he believed that the Obamacare private option had to be ended, and he gets down there and immediately comes back like he's smarter than everybody else, and we don't know what Jim. And I'll tell you, I didn't really even know who Senator Jim Hendren was, but I'll tell you the first name that he came back to me after he'd been down in Little Rock for a while. He was saying, well, it's Jim Hendren's real smart. Jim Hendren this, Jim Hendren that. And at first I thought, okay, because the only thing I knew of Jim Hendren is that he, with a bunch of other Republicans, they actually had a big press conference. This is before the Great Divide, talking about how we needed to defund it. And Beebe was still in.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the program. Thank you so much for being with us. I want to start this segment by informing you that this portion of the Paul Harrell Program is brought to you by the great patriots of Act 746, and they are on a mission, an educational mission, to inform people about your gun rights right here in the state of Arkansas, and the fact that Act 746 allows for constitutional carry of your firearm without permission slips or, nods of the head from Mother Government. Hey, joining us now to talk a little bit more about Patriots of Act 746, we have Lisa Brandon Benton is on the line. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now, Lisa, you are based out of Jonesboro, right? Up here in my neck of the woods.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you on the program, you're involved with the Patriots of Act 746. How'd that happen?
Strangely enough, I was on Facebook a couple of months back, and one of my cousins in Northwest Arkansas had posted a question to the group, and it appeared in my timeline, so I started reading his question and reading down through the answers, and then I went over to their Facebook page and asked to join.
Oh,
and
wow.
That's how it got started.
So do you remember what the question that kind of piqued your interest was?
No, and I knew you were going to ask that, and I should have looked it up, but I do not remember.
No, it's okay. It's okay. What's great is there's a lot of questions like that at the Facebook page. I mean, I couldn't remember. There's so many posts and, different members or admins who are either bringing up, current news or just bringing up, in a lot of ways, kind of the philosophical concepts behind the right to keep and bear arms and, what our founding fathers thought. So let me ask you this, Lisa, when was the last time, or like what would you say that you've learned, and how long have you been been a member of the group?
I think maybe 3 months.
Okay, 3 months. So
when I joined,
in a 3-month period, what have you learned from the Patriots of Act 746?
Well, really, I was not aware of Act 746. I mean, I've always kind of carried a gun because with my work and my travel, I'm alone a lot. So I've always carried a gun, never had a permission slip.
Uh-huh.
But I learned that I can carry, open or concealed, without having a permission slip, and I'm perfectly legal to do so.
Okay, so let me say, so you said that you were carrying anyway. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So were you under the impression that you were breaking the law? Did you think you were breaking the law and you were carrying anyway?
No, I was under the impression that I have the right to protect myself.
Oh, wow.
And that's all that really mattered to me.
Yeah, and I think that's great. I mean, and because I feel like that's really what it comes down to. It's a natural, if, for example, if we're really talking about, life and death situations and you needing a firearm to protect yourself in those life and death situations. And I know we talk a lot about law-abiding citizens and everything else, but if you really put it in, if it's a life and death situation, am I going to be scared, of the government, or am I going to protect my family? You know what I mean? I just feel like mentally making those calculations, and there's a lot of people that wouldn't nowadays because we're so, we've just been coached to believe that we do have to have, permission to exercise the most basic concepts, most basic rights. So you now know that you have the right to self-defense since you've been with the Patriots of Act 746.
Yes, that's correct.
And have you told anybody else about it?
I have. In fact, I've added several friends and family members to the group and am talking about it to a lot of people as I come in contact with them on a daily basis.
Really? Do you ever get any pushback?
Not so much locally. I have friends in other states that I've had conversations with that are a little more interested in gun control than I am.
Mm-hmm.
So
yep.
I've had a little pushback from them, but really not locally.
Okay. So you don't ever get, when you tell people about this, we had in the segment last week, we were talking about how sometimes, law enforcement officers will admit privately, hey, yeah, constitutional carry, Act 746, it did, but they won't admit it publicly. It's the same thing we also hear from the governor, according to meetings. I'll admit it privately, but I won't admit it publicly. So do you ever get any people who say, I'm uncomfortable when I see people open carrying firearms?
I haven't encountered that yet, but I will say some years ago, probably about 10 years ago, I did actually have a little situation with someone who was harassing me, and a police officer friend of mine actually went and got me a gun and told me to keep it on me for a while
Uh-huh.
because I didn't have one of my own at that point. So he knew I didn't have a license, but he did know that I knew how to use one because I'd had guns previously, and he was just trying to help me be in a position to protect myself.
Okay. And, I mean, what does that do? I mean, obviously, that helps your confidence, right? I mean, does it alleviate fear, being able to protect yourself?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, sure. And his words were, if my wife were in the same situation, I would want her to have one as well. So take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. And I will tell you this, this really kind of goes and pairs up well with an article that was written a couple of weeks ago. I think it was over at conduitforaction.org, which, it talked about Senator Trent Gardner. He had an idea to enable a court to issue somebody, let's say that's a woman that's a victim of domestic battery, a temporary concealed handgun carry permit. And the whole point of that article was saying, hey, that's actually a good motivation. However, even pursuing that undermines the law as it is now, because the law as it is now says that you do have the right to carry a weapon. And that's the reason that you have prosecutors that drop charges, because they're reading the law, and you can't get a conviction on these things. Let me ask you this, Lisa. We're talking with Lisa Brandon Benton from the Patriots of Act 746. She's been a member for 3 months. Are you intimidated at all when you see anybody open carry? Because that's the whole thing. Concealed carry, open carry is a reality under constitutional carry. What are your thoughts on that?
No. I think if more people carried openly, there would probably be less crime out there, because I think that the criminal element would sense that, they don't just have free run.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I just think it would be a deterrent to them.
Yeah.
To do anything, knowing that people are out there with, that are armed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
and if you can see it, I haven't open carried a lot. I have concealed carried, like I said, for many years.
Mm-hmm.
But I have begun to open carry and am looking forward to doing it even more in the future.
Yeah, I mean, that's so cool. That's the state. Arkansas gun laws are to the point where we have decriminalized them. And more and more people are figuring that out, and that's, I think, the whole purpose behind Patriots of Act 746. And again, you've only been a member, for 3 months. I see now on Facebook that there are now 11,242 members on that page. Just a force of people who care about this basic human right that our founding fathers understood. But it seems, and even take something like the violence that happened in New York, the terrorist attack that happened in New York yesterday. And you just think, okay, the liberal reaction, if we were going to be consistent, would be to, try to have some sort of car control or something like that. That car actually didn't kill anybody. That was the terrorist driver was doing that. And it's the same thing that applies with, our firearms and our right to protect ourselves. So Lisa, let me ask you one more question. So you would recommend Patriots of Act 746. I mean, if you wanted to know, what your rights were in the state of Arkansas, you would recommend them, right?
Absolutely. In fact, let me give a little plug for the meeting for the group this upcoming Sunday in Jonesboro at 3 o'clock at Tamales.
Okay. This
if
Sunday.
If you're interested in knowing more about it, join us.
Absolutely. Yeah, this Sunday, 3 o'clock in Jonesboro at Tamales. If you want to know more about Patriots of Act 746, and this is a big, there are patriots all over Arkansas, but this is a big push for Northeast Arkansas, to kind of to get more organized and get more people, invigorated about what their rights are. And so, yeah, that's this Sunday at Tamales in Jonesboro, 3 o'clock, and go spend the afternoon with some patriots. Lisa, it's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you so much. It was an honor.
All righty. We'll talk to you soon. Be safe, folks. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to regroup. We're going to be back here with some more Arkansas news. Don't go anywhere. First, can you believe Patriots of Act 746, 11,242 members, and it's getting bigger every day. And it's just it's amazing the great information that's on that page. We got to go. Back in just a moment.
Bob Maloney here from ASA News, The Parrot. Breaking news from the Capitol in Little Rock. Over now to our new on-site reporter, Susan Shenanigans. Susan?
Thanks, Bob. The governor has just announced that a blue ribbon task force is to be formed.
Today, I'm asking your support for a blue ribbon legislative task force to be created and directed to recommend further reform.
Now we go live to the chamber to listen in for more information on the task force.
I hereby call this session into order. First on the agenda for today is the formation of the Blue Ribbon Task Force. Is there anyone who would like to give their thoughts on the task force?
Yes, as someone who's deeply conservative, why is the governor choosing the color blue for this task force? Sounds like he's really a Democrat loyalist. Why not a red ribbon to prove he's a true conservative?
Well, I represent Walmart, and we agree with the color of the task force ribbon. The color blue is best consistent with the Walmart brand.
I object to this choice. Blue is the wrong color ribbon for this task force.
Well, who are you?
I am Mr. P.C. Wrights, and I represent Target, and we want the ribbon to be red, not blue.
Hold it right there. This seems like a tough decision. Why not ask the governor to call a special session at a later date for an important decision as this?
I think this is something worth talking about. I motion that we decide the color of the ribbon today.
I second it. Fine. We can decide it now. Does anyone have any other suggestions for the color of the ribbon?
I think the color should be white.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on. Definitely not white.
I agree with Mr. P.C. Wrights. Maybe we should choose green for the farmers.
You like the color green because you are a farmer. I think it should be purple, so we can display how Arkansas is an extremely moderate state.
Why are we even discussing this? Shouldn't we be talking about tax reform instead of wasting time with this?
Well, the people have spoken. They believe this is worth talking about, so we are deciding this now.
Excuse me, sir, but shouldn't the color of the ribbon be rainbow to include all types of people?
Please, silence your phones.
I just received a call from Walmart HQ, and they agree with, what was your name again? My name is Fabulous. They agree with Fabulous that the color should be rainbow.
Target concurs with the decision of it being rainbow-colored ribbon.
Is there a motion to make the ribbon rainbow-colored?
I motion to make the color rainbow.
I second the motion. The motion carries because I said so.
The committee will now vote and not be on record to keep the people in the dark. Back to you, Bob.
Thank you, Susan. And thank you for listening to ASA News, The Parrot. Next up, there are reports of a gorilla on top of the Capitol Dome demanding massive sums of taxpayer cash. His name? Medicaid expansion.
PHP Parody.
Yeah, coming back in, looking at this graphic here. Unbelievable numbers. Aces polling, again, dipping 17 points since April among Republicans. Unbelievable. And when you consider that Donald Trump has an approval rating among Republicans of 79%, and yet Aces hovering at, he's right at 59%. So vulnerable, absolutely vulnerable. Just wanted to make sure that you see those numbers once again. The telephone number, if you want to call us or text us, 870-275-9799. We'll come back and wrap things up. I want to talk a little bit about what government tends to do. Okay, the obvious answer is government grows, government expands. I mean, that's what it does. But in some cases, when the government gets involved in outside services, and co-ops them and then, adopts them as now the new standard of what government should do for you. And I guess the most recent, not most recent, but a good example of this is to see what has happened to our education system and compare what happened to our education system. And the concept of, kids should go to school, kids should be taught how to read, write, and arithmetic, to no, the government's got to get involved in control of results. It's a top-down system. We're gonna be between you and the teacher, essentially. I mean, that's what the government has successfully been put in between you, the student, and the teacher. The way in healthcare now, the government is trying to come between you and your doctor. And I haven't really ever heard anybody make that analogy, but we're watching what education has become, and many people are now calling it the educational industrial complex, and it really is. I mean, it's getting worse. Our education system is getting much worse. Hopefully, Donald Trump can do something about that. But if you look at what's happening in healthcare, there's some similar trends here. I think most people, if you went back and looked at the quality of citizen we were producing that could read, write, and do math, I mean, put people on the moon, you wouldn't fast forward and you wouldn't look at these massive superintendents that are presiding over millions and millions of taxpayer dollars every single year just to make things work. I mean, and they would have you believe that the multi-millions and millions and millions of these local school districts are now producing or in charge of is the bare minimum. Now, that's the bare minimum of what it takes to get by. And yet, look at what some of these administrators are making. Look at their massive salaries. And look at how expensive education's getting. We have millage increases and tax increases, and it's always not enough, right? We got to keep up with the Joneses. Oh, they've got an indoor turf facility. We've got to raise taxes so we can have it. They've got a fine arts center. Well, we want to have a better fine arts center, right? Look at what's happening in the medical industry, okay? Over at Forbes.com, there is a fantastic piece that is entitled "Focus on Health Coverage Misses the Point" by Marnie Jameson Carey, who's the executive director of the Association of Independent Doctors. Okay, so this is the concept of, okay, health coverage. Are you covered? Are you covered? Now, open enrollment is right now, right? Are you covered? Are you covered? Are you covered? Are you actually getting health care, though? That is the difference. And these are the things that I feel like people like Governor Asa Hutchinson, you know, he's checked a box. People have health care coverage. I'm paying for the premiums of, I'm paying Blue Cross Blue Shield in the premiums, and now this person is covered. That's the way Asa looks at it, in my opinion. Listen to these comparisons. Why does the average cost of a hip replacement in the United States come in at $40,364, and in Spain it's $7,371? The average price for an angiogram in the U.S., $914, in Canada, $35. Now, these would typically be numbers that you would tout to promote socialized medicine. This is what the left would take these numbers, and they would promote it, right? But listen to what I've been saying. I've been preparing you that if we ever do go the full socialized medicine route, and I hope we don't, these healthcare executives that are already making tons of money, these hospital administrators that are already making tons of money, will just become part of the ship. They'll just like in that Pirates of the Caribbean movie where the dead men just become part of this. Like, they're just going to fall into place. They're going to be rewarded, sustained, so that they're happy and don't throw a fit and cooperate with the big government takeovers. The reason this is happening one of the reasons our cost is out of control, aside from the fact that when the government gets involved, they don't care about costs because they're using other people's money, and they don't care about quality because it's not them. It's not affecting them personally. Between 1970 and 2010, the number of administrators in healthcare grew more than 3,000%. The number of administrators in healthcare, you see, we're watching, they are about to do to your healthcare what they have done to our education system. While the number of physicians grew about 200% during that same period. Now, if we're really talking about healthcare and not health coverage, see, if you were talking about health coverage, you would expect that administrators would have grown by 3,000% from 1970 to 2010. But if we were talking about health care, you might have said, no, doctors should have grown. People that actually are putting the stitches in your forehead. In my case, it was my chin. You can't see it but I have a scar right here beneath my chin. I busted my chin open at least 3 times. If my parents are listening, they'll know 2 or 3 times. One of them is because I was pretending to be one of the Dukes of Hazzard. I had that little Cub car, with the yellow top and the red that you would push with your feet. Had wheels on it, but you would push it with your feet like Fred Flintstone. Well, I watched like Dukes of Hazzard every morning, and I thought, I don't know, it was a Bo or Duke Luke, one of them, whichever the one was that didn't drive, and he would always slide. He would slide over the hood of the car and then go in through the window. Wouldn't open the doors on the General Lee. No, you got to go through the window. And so I decided to do that. Of course, one of those Cub cars or whatever, they don't have an actual hood. So I was having to try to slide over the yellow canopy, right? And so I did that, and the car, which was kind of already on a bit of an incline, slid right out from under me. And yeah, busted my chin open. It was sweet. Anyway, yeah. So the people that are actually putting the stitches in shouldn't the number of those people that can actually do the work. You see, because the more people that are doing the work, the less demand there is for their labor. The cost goes down. That's the way this should be working. The more people that can do a specialized skill, the less valuable the skill is, right? You're a fast food worker, right? You don't have a very valuable skill. I'm sorry, that's why you're not going to make $20 an hour, because anybody can hand a brown paper bag out of a window. That's just the way it is. It keeps going here. Between 2010, when Obamacare went into effect, and 2014, more than 1 million more hospital administrative jobs were created to handle all the new bureaucracy. We now have 10 administrators for every 1 doctor, so even more healthcare dollars are being spent paying people who never touch a patient, let alone sign a patient chart. The United States spends far more on administrative costs than any of the next 8 leading countries. A recent study found that if we reduced U.S. per capita spending for hospital administration to Scottish or Canadian levels, we could save more than $150 billion a year. So something is wrong when the average annual pay for a nonprofit hospital CEO, the average is $596,000, while a primary care doctor makes $185,000 and a surgeon $306,000. A nonprofit CEO making $596,000. That's the average. That's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And here's the thing. These Republicans in Arkansas, they want to talk about being intellectuals. What do you think they do when they're confronted with data like this? They embrace it. They embrace it. Oh, they may ignore it because they think they're so smart. But by going along with Obamacare in the first place, like they did here in Arkansas, they're embracing this entire flawed system because they think if we can grow government now, we'll shrink it later. Just trust us. Just trust us. They're going to ask you to do the same thing with the tax force or the tax force. You know, it's a tax force. It's a tax force. They're going to force us to raise our taxes. You know what they'll say? Let's broaden the base and let's not do any tax cuts for now. Let's give the government more money. Let us grow government. And we promise, we pinky promise, we'll shrink it later. It's like you got to spend money to make money, right? And that may be a business philosophy, but it's your own money you're spending. And anyway, they want to grow government, and then they promise to shrink it later. This is their whole plan. And I'm going to continue to expose it. And I know this audience, a lot of you are new, and you're hearing this for the first time. But let me tell you something. There is a swamp in Little Rock, and it needs draining. And there's less people that know about it than know about the swamp in D.C. Please keep listening. We've got one more hour coming your way next. The Conduit for Action quiz on special elections next.
Rush, Glenn, Sean, and Paul. This is Jonesboro's 1013. FM News Talk, KBTM.
Welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, or our YouTube page, The Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell Program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this. And I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Office, and it was they were great ideas. All of a sudden, those ideas couldn't be done once Asa got in office, though. And so, the whole thing is very frustrating. You can go back and find audio of John campaigning, and then now he's done the opposite. You can go back and find audio of him summarizing what the race was about. Quote, the private option was rejected.
All of his materials supported that. We've got a whole stack of his campaign materials. All of them supported doing away with the private option and things. His problem was he went down to Little Rock and forgot who put him into office. You support your constituents. You vote the way they want you. You don't go down there and make a whole new set of friends and decide to support what they want.
Yeah, you're right. And Iris, I think the hospitals got to him. I think the healthcare industry got to him. And, here's an update on that. He can talk all he wants in this email about, we don't need to be involved in primaries. Well, listen, John Cooper's involved in primaries. Yes, he is. He has given money to State Representative Dan Sullivan, a great conservative, his opponent. He's given money to Dan Sullivan's opponent. And so, this whole thing, look, I want John Cooper to take whatever side he wants to take. I want the others in the committee to take whatever side they want to take. I just want a debate about the ideas. Let's take it to the people. And the reason I'm a fan of that, I'd be a fan of that even if they disagreed with me, because that's the right thing to do. I'm a fan of that, really, though, because we will win. And they know that.
Well, when your opponent, when a primary opponent, which is what Dan Sullivan's, who's drawn a primary opponent, is supported by the big money interests of the healthcare industries and the hospitals, you have to question what the motivation is and whether it's for the common people or whether it's for the business interests. And I think Dan has done an excellent job. He rated number one of representative legislators in Conduit's scorecard because he went down there and he did not forget who put him in office. He voted the way, obviously his conscience, but, his conscience reflected the ways that we wanted him to vote too. And so he goes down there and he gets the top score of all of the representatives, 100 of them. Mm-hmm. You just can't get any better than that for representation because he didn't represent this interest versus that interest versus another interest. He voted what was right and he voted what his constituents wanted him to vote. How is this primary opponent, who may be a perfectly nice man, we probably will invite him to one of the Tea Parties.
Yeah, I've tried to get him on the program.
Everybody.
I can't. I don't have his number. I've called his office. He's a doctor, which, and I've tried to get him on. I can't get any response, so, anyway.
Exactly. But my point is when it's well known that you are represented and you're being funded by this group, of medical interest and things because you've got a governor in office who wants to ramrod and has ramrodded this program, the Arkansas version of Obamacare through, then you have to ask yourself which is the representative who would do most for the common person.
Yeah, that's a great point. And here we are. We're the extremists that we're just looking out for the common folks.
Absolutely, yeah.
Iris,
I've been an extremist for years.
I'd like for you to stay on the line if you can. We've got to go to a break, and I want to continue a conversation because I know we got some more stuff to talk about. And so will you do that? Can you stay on the line? Okay, great.
Oh, I sure can.
Welcome back to the program. Iris Stevens, she is the coordinator for the Northeast Arkansas Tea Party, and she joins us now. Iris, welcome back.
Oh, glad to be here.
I want to mention one more thing about John Cooper, Senator John Cooper. Obviously, we talked about him a lot today because of the email, him mentioning Tea Party extremists in the Republican Party email that is now public. Craighead County Republicans apparently didn't like what he said, so they sent it out to the press. And we have it, and so that's good. But this is the first time John Cooper has really betrayed the people that got him elected. John Cooper would not be in office. He wouldn't have won. He wouldn't have won the primary between he and Dan Sullivan if the Tea Party hadn't done what they did and supported him and believed him. And that's really what it was. They believed him. And so, but this is the first time he showed up in 2015 to the Tea Party meeting. He didn't show up. He sent somebody else with a video camera from the governor's office, and you were instrumental in discovering that. Tell us about that.
Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, you and Conduit were on the program that night, and I walked into the meeting and found a videographer there, and I asked him what was up, and he said, well, he had been sent by the governor.
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing. And it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
All right, folks, welcome to the program. It is hour number 2. Thank you so much for being with us. It's the intersection of conservative ideas and reality, and we're building a liberty machine. You know what that time is? It's time for our weekly, it's the Conduit for Action game show, actually. No, it's time for our Conduit for Action quiz. Knowledge is power. Arkansas special elections. That is what the quiz is on today. Arkansas special elections. So, Joe, are you excited? Last week, was it last week that your streak was broken or the week before?
No, it was last week.
Okay, last week. So before last week, you had scored like 100 on 3 straight quizzes.
Yeah, I think it was 3 straight quizzes.
And then last week, it was the executive branch. It was a knowledge is power quiz on the executive branch, and you got it was just kind of what would you describe it as? Terrible, right?
Yeah, it was bad. I got a D. Like, it was a high D, but it was a D. And
okay,
the executive branch has always confused me because I don't know I'm not always 100% what they can and can't do. And
well, there's a lot of constitutional officers. Yeah. All right, so let's get to the quiz, shall we? Let's go to question, or let's read what they got. Go ahead and click on it. Let's click on it, and we'll read it. Take the quiz here. You can take it right now over at conduitforaction.org. So cities and counties, okay? Cities and counties, that's what this is about. School districts, we talked about that last hour. They have these things called special elections at random times throughout the year to raise your taxes. Currently, these elections can occur at basically any time during the year rather than at the general or primary election date. Because of the random dates for elections, turnout is low and tax increases pass overwhelmingly. SB 723 of 2017 by Senator Dave Wallace, a Republican, and Representative Justin Gonzalez, also a Republican, would have reformed special elections to increase turnout and provide more local control over tax increases. Take the quiz below to learn the statistics on these tax increase elections and how the reform efforts were derailed and the bill fell 1 vote short of passing.
Thank you, Sturch. Thank you, Sturch.
Thank you, James Sturch. State Representative James Sturch.
Sturch Lurch.
If any of his constituents are listening, gosh.
If you didn't already know, in fact, it was his fault.
Yeah, it was completely his fault. He walked out. He got a text message and walked out. All right. Question number 1, Joe. According to the Tax Foundation, where does Arkansas rank for combined state and local sales tax rate? Is it A, they are the 20th highest, B, the 15th highest, C, the 10th highest, or is it D, are they the 3rd highest? Think it out now.
I'm going to go with 3rd highest because we have a really high local sales tax. Because I remember when I took one of the other quizzes, we have like a 6% state sales tax, but on average our sales tax is 9%, which means we have around an 11 or so percent on average local sales tax.
You think that's pretty high?
So, absolutely.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go with 3rd highest.
All right. Well, that sound does mean you're out of time, so that's good. It's good that you made the decision that quickly. Question number 2. According to the Arkansas Center for Research in Economics, how much do special elections cost taxpayers each year to hold these elections?
I don't even have one clue. Not even one.
Is it A, $10,000 a year, B, $50,000 a year, C, $100,000 a year, or D, $200,000 a year? Joe, just relax, take your time, think it out. What do you think? According to the Arkansas Center for Research in Economics, how much do special elections cost taxpayers each year? All right.
You having fun in there, Paul?
I am having good. All right, that sound means that you're out of time. So what's it going to be?
I'm going to go with 100,000.
All right, 100,000 going with C.
Another quick question. So that question was asking how much one special election costs the taxpayers?
It says, how much do special election cost taxpayers each year?
So my question is it all, or is it just one?
All right, Joe. All right, stop right now. I'm going to go ahead and need you to. I thought we were past this, but you're going to have to say, I affirm the results of this, even if I have
affirm the results.
You affirm the results. You're not going to go back and try to say, well, the questions were unfair.
I don't care.
All right. Okay.
I affirm the results. I don't know.
I don't know. I didn't make up this quiz. Conduit for Action did, so I don't know.
Josh, text me.
Okay. Question number 3. According to the Arkansas Center for Research in Economics, how much have taxpayers spent from 1981 to 2016 to hold special elections? Is it A, $3.5 million, B, $5 million, C, $6.3 million, or D, $7.4 million? What do you think? Think it out now. Sound it out now, Joe. 3.5 million, 5 million, 6.3 million, or 7.4 million.
This changes my other answer. I'm going back to change one of my previous answer.
Okay.
To 200,000, and I'm changing, and I'm going to go with 6. Hold on. I'm going 7.4 million.
Gonna need an answer. That sound means that you're out of time.
$7.4 million.
All right. You're going with 7.4 million. From 81 to 2016. Question number 4. According to the Arkansas Center for Research in Economics, what was the voter turnout for local sales tax special elections held between 1981 and 2016? Is it A, 64%, B, 43%, D, 28%, C, 28%, or D, 19%?
Don't even play the music. It's 19%.
All right, 19%. All right, okay.
Because special election turnout always has really low percentages, and 19% is the lowest, so I'm going with that.
Okay, all right. Question number 5. According to the Arkansas Center for Research in Economics, what was the pass rate of local sales tax increases special elections held between 1981 and 2016? Is it A, 45%, B, 57%, C, 65%, or D, 77%? So what this is saying is, on average, if you hold a special election between those periods, do you have a 77% chance of passing, 65%, 57%, or 45%?
I think I'm between 65 and 77, but I'm pretty sure it's 77 because it's a really high pass rate.
Yeah. So you're going to assume that this quiz is trying to convey, like, okay, let's just be as negative as you can on these answers, as bad as we can, because I mean that's terrible. What a I mean that disenfranchises everybody as far as these other voters. If it's just disenfranchises everybody.
Yeah, I'm going to 77%.
77%. Are somebody texting you the answers?
No.
You just looked at your phone. Is somebody texting you the answers? Oh, no, what? I don't even know what that is. Okay, no one's texting you the answers. Okay, all right, okay, all right.
No one's texting me answers.
Okay,
Jeez.
I thought maybe somebody was texting you answers.
No one's texting me any answers.
All right. Now, question number 6. According to the Arkansas Center for Research and Economics.
Think I'm cheating over here?
I don't know,
How
man.
How dare you question my integrity?
I'm sorry. I don't mean that was not my intent. That was not my intent to question your integrity. I simply was saying that. Okay.
How dare you question my integrity?
According to Arkansas Center for Research and Economics, when these same local sales tax increase elections were held at the general election, what was the pass rate of these tax increases? Meaning, okay, it's just pretty simple. When they had them in the general election, did they pass 44% of the time, 56% of the time, 60% of the time, or 70% of the time? I like this music. Think it out. It's very serious. You really do. I mean, you want to get that 100%. I can tell. I mean, and that's good.
No, it's not. It's okay. The reason why I'm having to think this out is I'm having to read this question multiple times because of the fact of I kind of zoned out a second.
Oh, okay. Gosh, Joe, come on. All right, you're gonna have to get a guess. That sound means we're out of time. Got to keep moving here. Got to keep moving. It's pretty simple. I mean, it's just saying when they have the special election in the general, does the tax pass or fail? That's what they're trying to convey here. You just said when they have it during the special election, it tends to pass.
Try to think, Paul. Jeez.
I mean, sorry, you just answered in the previous question. Essentially, you marked 77%, meaning that when they have a special election, the tax tends to pass. So now they're asking you the opposite. When they have them in a general election, does it tend to pass or does it tend to fail? So...
No, that's not what that's asking. This is asking what was the result of SB 723. Like, did it pass or did it fail? Like the bill itself.
No, we're on question 6.
That's what I'm reading. Question 6. What was the result of SB 723?
I have a different question 6 on my screen. That is weird. Hang on, go back up to question 5.
Question 5. According to Acre, what was the pass rate of local sales tax increase special elections?
Well, you fill out what yours says.
Okay. My question is, what was the result of SB 723, the bill for special election reform that would require that special elections must be held at the primary or general election date or similar dates in off-election years? So this one's asking what happened to the bill.
I got you.
And my options are the bill passed both chambers and was signed into law by the governor, which didn't happen. The bill passed both chambers but was vetoed by Governor Asa Hutchinson. Didn't happen. The bill passed the House but failed in the Senate, and then the bill passed the Senate and fell one vote short in the House because State Rep James Sturge voted yes and then walked out of the chamber.
Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely what happened.
That was
that's
it.
Exactly what happened.
So at number 6, hang on. While you're on that one, okay, I'm going to go ahead and play. That means you got that answer correct.
Oh, I know I got that one right. So at least I didn't get a 0.
Yes, you got the answer correct. Isn't that great?
Didn't get a 0.
So I think for some reason my question 6 was your question 7. So the question 7 is according to the Arkansas Center for Research and Economics. When the same local sales tax increase elections were held at the general election, what was the pass rate of these tax increases? So I think, I don't know what happened there, but had different orders. So you're saying...
Go with the highest percentage because it ain't like when these local... Oh, no.
Yeah, think about 44%. This a little bit.
No,
okay.
This is lower, much lower.
All right, so you're going with 44%.
Yeah, and yes, I have.
Okay. All right, so question number 9, what city do you live in? You live in the town of Jonesboro, and you're going to hit done, and what was your score?
It sent me to the back to the quiz.
Interesting. Okay.
I'm gonna redo my answers.
Okay. Maybe it's time.
I'm not changing them. I'm gonna do
all
the
right.
exact
All
same
right.
ones.
Okay. All right. Let's see.
In
what we
timeout.
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, you took forever. This is long.
That is not true.
It's 20 past the hour.
I
don't know.
Last
It's 20 past the hour,
last
Joe. It's
week's
just
quiz,
been
it was
hanging out
23
here.
past the hour whenever
I don't know,
when
man.
we went to break. I remember.
I don't know. I'm telling you. I think I'm just gonna. This is what I think about that. This is how. I'm dangerous when I'm the guy that's behind.
Okay,
the audio clips.
It's because mine was an old quiz apparently.
It's been refreshed. So now question 6 is my question 6.
Yes.
I got you.
So 44% is what I put.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we're going to get your answers here in just a second. James Sturch killed special election, and you. Okay, here we go. Real results coming at you. What was your score, Joe?
100%.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes, I'm back. I'm back, baby.
All right, he's back at 100%. That's fantastic, Joe. Congratulations. Acing the Conduit Fraction Knowledge is Power Special Election quiz this week. So just so you know, folks, we are the third highest, according to the Tax Foundation. Arkansas ranks as the third highest for combined state and local sales tax rates. This is ridiculous. We have Republicans in control. They've been in control a long time, and yet this is still the results that we have. It's just absolutely embarrassing. Question 2, according to the Arkansas Center for Research and Economics, how much do special elections cost taxpayers each year to hold these things? Joe, what did you put? You put 200,000?
Yeah,
200,000. You went with the highest. It's 200,000. Then, of course, how much have we spent since 1981? $7.4 million on special elections.
You want to know why I changed my answer?
Because you can do math in your head.
Well,
and I can't.
I can do math in my head, but the reason why I changed my answer from the one before was because if it had been 100,000, then my answer would have been 3.5 million, sticking with the numbers. But
did you use a calculator?
No.
Is that what you were doing? You weren't getting a text. You were using a calculator.
I was not using.
That's fine. You can use a calculator. It just has to be, it can't be higher than a TI-82.
Oh, that's fine. It's a phone calculator. It can only do.
I'm sure a phone calculator can do way more than a TI. It can graph.
Oh, it can't graph. Can't graph. But
that was the big deal.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't use it in calculus, because it had graphing abilities. That's why I couldn't use mine. But anyways, so the reason
Wait a second. There's still TI-80 calculators out there? Like, that's still a thing?
I have a TI-84. That's
really?
what I have that at my apartment right now. It's a graphing calculator.
People are still using those things.
Well, the standard for engineers at ASU is TI-89s. They have 3D modeling calculators.
So that's still a thing. I just figure there'd be something cooler than that, like a tricorder at this point that connects to your phone.
Nope.
Well, okay.
But anyways, so I changed it to 200,000 because 3.5 seemed really low. 7.4 million seemed a little more reasonable, as if for our state.
Mm-hmm.
So I changed my answer because it's 35 years between 1981 and 2016. So I just doubled it.
Mm-hmm.
Thereabouts.
7.4 million wasted just so they could raise taxes even more. And this is the biggest one. Question 6 sums up this entire narrative.
Wait, we haven't even gone to question 4 and 5.
Okay. We did not. Okay. So voter turnout is abysmal.
Yeah, 19%.
At 19% really from 81 to 2016. When they have a special election, 19%. And the sad thing is, if you ask a superintendent, would they be honest with you? We have special elections to raise your taxes because we know there's nobody's going to show up, and we're going to get what we want. Question 5: what was the pass rate of the local sales tax increase special elections? The pass rate. D, 77%.
Which is insanity.
Yeah, they know they have a special election. 19% are going to turn out on average, and they've got a 77% chance of passing.
You have slightly better than the 3/4 chance of getting it passed.
By the way, Asa Hutchinson would love to have a 77% approval rating among Republicans.
But he doesn't.
He doesn't.
Was it 59%?
Yeah. Now, question 6. This really sums it up. According to the Arkansas Center for Research and Economics, when these same local taxes are held during general elections, what percentage of the time do the tax increases pass?
44%. It drops a whole 33%.
Yeah, 44%, because the people don't like they want to keep their own money.
It goes from slightly over 3/4%, like 3/4 chance to pass, to just under half.
That's unbelievable. And then last, what was the result of SB 723, the bill for the special election reform that would require special elections be held at the primary or general election date or similar dates in off-election years? Of course, the answer.
So the people who create this quiz, the person who creates this quiz, they swapped 6 and 7 between whenever this got pulled up earlier today and when you pulled yours up.
So anyway, bottom line is James Sturch, you already know this, killed special election reform.
He lurched right out of the room.
And he got up, he got a text message, and he wanted to do what we've got it all on video. He had voted for it, and then they did the sound the ballot maneuver, and he got up and left so that when they got to his seat, the bill would fail. And it's sad when you look at the real dollar amount we're talking about here, and you look at the amount of money that we've been taxed since 81 and 2016. It's a lot of money. All right, we've got to go to break, folks. Thank you, Joe. Congratulations, 100%. Your streak is now, one. We're going for 1. We'll be back in just a moment.
This is State Representative Dan Sullivan with a Liberty Moment. Governments do not make ideals, but ideals make governments. This is both historically and logically true. Of course, the government can help to sustain ideals and create institutions through which they can better be observed, but the source of their very nature is in the people. The people have to bear their own responsibilities. There's no method by which that burden can be shifted to the government. It's not the enactment, but the observance of laws that created the character of a nation. President Calvin Coolidge.
Paid for by Sullivan for Arkansas. If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas. Do you need to advertise your business product or service, but not sure what the best choice is? Folks, allow me to introduce you to Talk Radio. You're listening to it right now. Talk Radio is one of the most unique mediums in all of advertising because it actually works. It gets the information you want to the people you want to get it to. And by the way, those people are educated, well-informed decision makers of their household, and most of them have disposable income. If this is a target audience for your business, then you have to consider advertising on my show, The Paul Harrell Program. We have options for most any budget and can provide you with exciting opportunities to grow your business. We can put your message across the state, or we can help you locally. Call 870-275-9755 if you have any questions. That's 870-275-9755, or visit my website, paulharrell.com, and click on Advertise.
Need to get something off your chest? Then call or text Paul now, 870-275-9799.
All right, so general improvement funds, we're talking about that next. Mike Wilson, the former legislator who brought the suit about general improvement funds, Supreme Court did find it unconstitutional to launder this money and give it to legislators to then give out and get all the political credit and use their money to buy votes, use your money to buy and retain power, all this other stuff. Found to be unconstitutional, but now we have a second filing. Now, because that money was unconstitutional, Mike Wilson is saying, hey, the money that you spent on this, it needs to be given back. And I've got an analysis on this that I don't think you're going to hear anywhere else. It is amazing the lengths people will go to show that the government and the status quo is working great. We don't need any changes. I'll explain more in just a moment.
Welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, or our YouTube page, The Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell Program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this. And I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Office to make a videotape of our meeting, and I was just nonplussed. And couldn't decide, why. I asked him. I didn't get an awful lot of answers. Well, he went ahead and made the video. I said, sure, have at it. I said, tape anything you want. We have nothing to hide. He did a tape, and then I went home, and I had not gotten any answers, so I FOI'd the governor. Tried to call, and they didn't have any answers for me, so I FOI'd the governor to find out exactly why the governor would be sending someone up to videotape us, as us at the Tea Party and Conduit and Paul Harrell. And eventually chased it down to the fact that Senator Hendren, Jim Hendren, and John Cooper had cooked this up themselves. And I challenged John about it and had a talk with him, and he was very, very angry. It was a very intense conversation. Mm-hmm. I also talked to Jim Hendren, and the first thing he did was apologize. He said, kind of like, well, it sounded like a good idea at the time. And
well, good for him.
That's essentially what he said. I thought it was hysterical. But it was a 50-minute conversation with him, and he said that he was so concerned about what Conduit was telling us. I said, so why didn't you come to the meeting? I said, as a matter of fact, John Cooper had been invited to that very meeting. I said, there wasn't any need to tape it. I said, if you wanted to tape it, I said, I'd taped it and sent it to you. So, the conversation was interesting with him. He felt aggrieved. He couldn't understand why so many people were so upset at him for what he and the governor were doing under the Obamacare and the Arkansas Works and those issues.
Well,
because he'd been a good conservative all his life.
Yeah, well, and I hope they know now. I mean, look at the results that we have, and look
Absolutely.
at the. I mean, he told us he was in the program if we just followed him. I mean, that's essentially what he conveyed. That's what he told conservatives. We have the audio. And, it's just like, come on, you've got to understand what side of the aisle you're on.
And how many, they were ending the program, and how many are on it now? 300,000?
300,000. 330 is as high as 330, I mean,
exactly.
it's really sad. It truly is.
And we have knocked people off who actually were extremely disabled, made it harder for them to put people who were able-bodied, without children, on the program. We took money from one person to give it to another person, and took money from people who probably should have had it, because they really needed it more.
Yeah. Iris, you're right. We're going to be back with more with Iris Stevens, the coordinator for the Northeast Arkansas Tea Party. And, of course, the news today, Senator John Cooper fired off an email to the Republican Party committee in Craighead County with talking points about Tea Party extremists and taking over the committee. And Jan Morgan is now going back to the Craighead County. She's been invited back, which is good. That's probably the reason we have this development. You also have audio.
Your values, your ideals. The Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
870-275-9799. That is the telephone number. You can also sound off on Facebook Live if you would like to as well. All right. So, my goodness, this has been... Oh, by the way, this has been a great show. Tomorrow on the program, we've got a great show as well. We'll be talking with Brenda Vassar-Taylor about the Conduit for Commerce tax policy they sent out to the tax force, And so we'll be interviewing her at the top of the program tomorrow, or 4 or 4:30. I can't remember. I have to look. Then at 5 o'clock, we've got a Conservative Future segment. And then at 5:30, we'll be interviewing Senator Scott Flippo. This is all tomorrow on the program, so you don't want to miss it, all right? Then on Friday, I'm not going to be here, but Mr. Josh Waters will be here in studio taking my place, and I really appreciate him filling in for me. All right. Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Joe, you have this article, okay? Former Arkansas lawmakers filing return $2.5 million of state funds. This has to do with the Central Arkansas Economic Development, Planning and Economic Development Office, the district, which, by the way, was subpoenaed. There was a search warrant, not a subpoena, a search warrant executed on the Central Arkansas Planning and Development District by the FBI. We still don't know what they found, if they found anything. We still don't know what the purpose of that was. It, in my opinion, is certainly in connection with John Woods and Jake Files and Micah Neal and everything else, and who knows what other lawmakers are involved in that. I had a terrible dream the other night that because Mike Wilson won his Supreme Court case and they said that general improvement funds are unconstitutional, I had a terrible dream that the feds were like, well, because things have been righted and they're not going to be able to do it anymore, let's not indict anybody and let's not bring the hammer down on the people who've stolen from the taxpayers. It was a terrible dream. It was like one of the worst ones I think I've had. Former state representative Mike Wilson wants the Central Arkansas Economic Development Office to refund more than $2.5 million in general improvement fund money to the state treasury, according to a motion filed Monday in Pulaski County Court. Lisa Hammersley reports. But there's just a little problem. Wouldn't you know, they don't want to give the money back. Rodney Larson, who is the executive director of the Central Arkansas Planning and Development District, says they don't have that much money. They only have $969,000 left. And of that $969,000, it's already promised for grants to cities and counties and nonprofits. Now, excuse me for being skeptical, but I think you'll agree with me about some of the motivations behind people not wanting the status quo to change by the end of this segment, okay? She goes on, the Arkansas Supreme Court ruled October 5th in Mike Wilson's favor and said, hey, this is unconstitutional. You can't have legislators directing the money. You can't let them be taking credit for it because the full body has to vote on these things. They actually have to spend for specific purposes. They got to know where that money's going. You can't just give it up to these other agencies and on a whim. You know, I mean, some of these legislators may decide to give to the Boys and Girls Club, or they may decide to give to the local fire department, and it may hinge on whether or not they had a donut that morning. You know, it may depend on how their morning's going. Well, that's ridiculous. These things need to be carefully thought out and planned if we're going to fund anything at all. They need to be debated. We need to have people on record so that we can hold them responsible and accountable if they're giving money to people that don't need it or misuse it. We don't have any of that. I'm really glad the Arkansas Supreme Court struck down this terrible practice. It only made the power of incumbency harder. Specifically, though, Mike Wilson's case was about the Central Arkansas Planning and Development District. Now, that doesn't mean that all the other districts don't have to, they're going to have to comply, but when it comes to getting the money back, he now has cause to say, this money needs to be given back to the government. Okay? The state has 8 planning districts, by the way. With the ruling, the Supreme Court sent the case back to the lower court with Judge Chris Piazza. His ruling, of course, was overturned. And that's down in Pulaski County. And let's see here. So Mike Wilson filed on Monday and said, want to get this money back. Whatever, the leftover money, let's get it. The defendants have 10 days to respond. There likely will be a hearing, Wilson's attorney said, according to John Ogles, after Monday. No date has been set on anything like that. Here's where I want to focus on, though, because I got a feeling Mike Wilson, State Representative Mike Wilson, is being set up to look like the bad guy when all he did was challenge the illegal activities of government institutions. Let's say it like that. So it says here that Jones said, after the district froze all GIF grants in response to the Arkansas Supreme Court ruling, 900,000 plus was left. But local governments and community groups were counting on that money. Quote, I want to inform Judge Piazza about the nature of the approved grants that were pending at the time of the Supreme Court decision, the magnitude of those, what they were for, and ask for his guidance on exactly what we tell those people and organizations. So we have Sam Jones, who is an attorney for the District of Lonoke, and he's going to say to the judge, hey, listen, this money is already promised. He's hoping the judge is going to lift the money. You can bet on it. He's hoping that the judge is going to say, you can spend this money. Go ahead. Listen to what Lisa Hammersley writes. She writes, one of the most difficult situations, the planning district's director said, involves more than $50,000 in grants promised to help build a monument on the Capitol grounds for Arkansas Gold Star families. The $500,000 project is underway with the help from the Herschel Woody Williams Medal of Honor Foundation in Louisville, Kentucky. Jacksonville resident Paul Garrett is a Marine, a Vietnam veteran, and chairman of the Arkansas Committee working to build the monument to honor families that lost members in combat or certain other military service. Garrett said his group spent thousands to start construction and site preparation because legislators promised $100,000 in state grant money through the Central Arkansas Planning and Development District. Quote, now we're left holding the bag and trying to figure out how we're going to pay for what we've already signed for, Garrett said. The Central Arkansas Planning District actually prepared a check for $39,000 for Garrett's committee the first week in October to be mailed October 6th. Then came the Arkansas Supreme Court decision on October 5th. Joe, will you highlight that? This is the part of the story that doesn't make sense to me. They get the check ready, $39,000. It's going to be mailed October 6th. They had it planned, right? They were going to mail this check on October the 6th. When does the check go out? October the 6th. But then came October the 5th, and the grant money stopped. Now, let me stop here, and let me read between the lines, okay? Mike Wilson is an attorney that brought this suit. Mike Wilson is a former state representative. Mike Wilson lives in Jacksonville. They get a Jacksonville resident, Paul Garrett, who is a Marine and a Vietnam veteran and chairman of the Arkansas Committee working to build the monument to honor Gold Star families. These are people who have given their family members up for the service of their country, okay? And it's tragic and it's awful. there's a what is the big facility in Jacksonville? Oh, right, yeah, it's an Air Force base. There's a ton of veterans that live in Jacksonville. Here's this Jacksonville attorney who's messing everything up. I'm just telling you what they're really trying to do, the narrative they're really trying to paint. Here's this Jacksonville attorney messing things up for Jacksonville, and he must hate the troops because this money was going to be used for Gold Star families. And the check was scheduled to go out on the 6th, but then the 5th happened and the money was frozen. Now listen, I was not born yesterday. I wasn't born yesterday. I read this story, and look, this is minutia. I get it. Whatever. Okay? I know I'm getting, into real specifics here. But this is the kind of stuff you got to understand what the media is doing here. Okay? This was a huge case. This was a huge case for the taxpayers. And the media, in many cases, they can't help themselves. Anytime the government, you can say that this Supreme Court is beating down the legislature in this, and in a way is shrinking government. Technically for government to shrink, the government has to get less money. But you know what I mean? The Supreme Court said, no, this portion of the government can't do X, Y, and Z with the money. And that's a good thing. And so government is barely shrinking here, and the newspaper is like, here are the people that are going to suffer. They might as well put Sarah McLachlan under this, and and we can listen to the in the arms of the angel. This is plain. And I know we're dealing with Gold Star families, but that proves my point even more, by the way. It's a monument for Gold Star families. This is Jacksonville, a Jacksonville attorney. You have this Jacksonville situation. You have a lot of veterans who live in that area because of the Air Force base, and the check was going to go out on the 6th. Now, I just don't know if I believe that, first of all. Or after the fact, I don't know. Maybe how they're remembering the events when the ruling came down. But to show that the status quo, or rather that the end of the status quo was going to be painful, hey, let's make sure we cut that check. Even if what they said is true, hey, let's make sure we go ahead and write that check and have it ready to mail. And let's say that it was going to mail, whatever the day the ruling comes out, we were going to mail it the day after. So if the ruling had come down on the 6th, we were going to mail that on the 7th. If the ruling had come down on the 7th, we were going to mail that on the 8th. It was ready. It was cut. The ink was barely dry. You see the game they're playing here? And a lot of people don't want to talk about it, right? You don't want to talk about it, right? You can't talk about it. Some people might even be mad or say that I'm insensitive for pointing this out, because we are dealing with Gold Star families. We're dealing with veterans who've given everything, who are no longer with us, and it's terrible and it's awful. But I still think we should be able to talk about, again, how things are used in order to maintain government, right? For forever, you can't criticize John McCain. It doesn't matter how much he cooperates with what I consider to be the enemy here abroad, and that is the growth of socialism and government here, and really microwave communism, if not out straight up, just, let's let the government provide everything for us. You can't talk about John McCain's support for these things because he was a veteran. Right? There's still people today that don't want to talk about, hey, John McCain killed our chance to repeal Obamacare in, whatever form that was going to be. Well, I don't know if we should talk about that, because I know he said a million times that we're going to repeal it, and then he was the deciding vote to not repeal it, just like the Benedict Arnold of the Arkansas General Assembly, Senator John Cooper. But you can't talk about it because he served in the military, right? I'm done with that. I'm sorry. I respect. I didn't serve in the military, and honestly, I have no problem on that separate issue saying, you know what, I didn't have the courage to do that. I had my head in the clouds. I didn't do that. Right? I'm not you, and I can't possibly comprehend what it takes to go into the military. But to then somehow say that that your opinion now is more valid when it comes to taking other people's money and spending it on X, Y, or Z, or growing government, then your opinion is now more valid because you served in the military, and anybody that that to me, I'm sorry. I totally disagree. That's the antithesis of what you're supposedly fighting for over there. Okay? So the same thing, in my opinion, can be supplied to anybody that might criticize me pointing out that this check from the Central Arkansas Planning and Development District was cut and apparently scheduled to be sent the day after the ruling came down saying that all the money is frozen, and it was for a statue for Gold Star families, and now they're not going to be able to have it. And again, you have to put the pieces together. It's just not a coincidence to me. I can't see the coincidence of Jacksonville military base and Mike Wilson himself, who brought the suit, lives in Jacksonville. You've got to see how all of these pieces are set up to make Mike Wilson, who I believe is a patriot, end up looking like, who's the guy, Mr. Potter from It's a Wonderful Life. We got to take a break. Back in just a moment.
This is ASA News, The Parrot. With breaking news from the Capitol in Little Rock. I'm Bob Maloney. There are reports circling around from politicians who are in the know, and the same phrase keeps being used. That phrase is new revenue generation. Let's go to our reporter on the ground from the Capitol, Haley Hogwash. Haley?
Thanks, Bob. Yes, it seems the more politicians I talk to, the more I hear the phrase new revenue generation. We're trying to figure out exactly what that means, but you can rest assured it will be good for the people of Arkansas.
Haley, it certainly sounds like something good. I like how the phrase uses the word generation. That makes me think this has got to be doing something positive for our children in the future. Haley?
Yes, Bob, some new developments. I've just been speaking to some people who are here and are not politicians, and they tell me the phrase new revenue generation is actually code for a new tax.
Oh, my. Well, if this is true, Haley, that would add to a growing list of new taxes that have barely made any headlines at all, so it's best not to discuss them here on ASA News, The Parrot.
Yes, Bob, I know it's sure to make government officials angry that their phrasing of the new revenue generation has been changed by the people and called a tax increase.
I would expect an announcement from Mother Government soon to set the record straight. What is the new tax? Revenue generation, Haley?
Well, this new tax, a new revenue generation would add to a growing list. First, there was a revenue generation on movies, books, and songs that people download using the internet. And next, there was the tax increase. The new revenue generation on all purchases made using the internet. And now I'm told this new revenue generation is a tax on the people's patience.
I realize the people don't like it, Haley, but specifically, what is the new tax? Revenue generation.
No, Bob, I'm telling you, according to the activists here at the Capitol who have gathered and are listening to some radio broadcast, the revenue generation is literally taxing the patience of the people of Arkansas. I'm told the less patience you have with the government
better not tax our patience.
The more they will tax your patience and the more money you will owe at a later date. I'm also told the collection method on taxing your patience will be decided in a newly formed multicolored ribbon task force.
How taxing.
PHP Parody.
That's what I saw on Facebook. Somebody writes, who is this? Billy on Facebook says that today is Senator Scott Flippo's birthday. Well, happy birthday, Senator Scott Flippo. And all of you who are listening on the station that covers Scott Flippo's district, which would be the Great Mountain Talk 97, KJMT. And we certainly appreciate them as one of our affiliates, and all of you out there listening right now, we do appreciate it. I want to just one more time before, the show's going to end here in just a little bit. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I do want to remind you, because we haven't done this for our terrestrial radio affiliates, at all. I know we've got the ad that plays for our online audience, and I appreciate you guys so much. You have no idea. But for those of you who are listening online, listening on the radio, I want you to consider partnering with us. And one of the ways you can do that is to help us at Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. This is just a way for you to contribute to our program and us give you extra content. We want to give you extra content. And so we have our weekly Wednesday video. We have extra polls and stuff that come out. And you can decide if you want to give $10 a month, and you'll get access to the features and the polls. If you give $25 a month, you get the T-shirt and everything underneath. But for as little as $5 a month, you can get the extra content, the Wednesday weekly video, and the message board and everything else. And if you think that this program is of value, I would just ask for you to consider helping us out to grow the program. I think all of you understand that the information you're getting here is not what the mainstream media. We just proved it last segment on something that was, might be minutia, but even on the big stuff, you're not hearing. You're hearing maybe the politicians spin, and here in the coming weeks, we're going to explore the media here in Arkansas. They don't criticize the Republican establishment, yet we know that they're leftists. So why are they not doing it? And it's going to all come down to control. You would be amazed at the amount of control of the news organizations in this state that you would think are independent. You would think that they are autonomous, but they're actually homogenous. They're not autonomous. They're homogenous. They're all the same, and they're controlled by the same interests, okay? And so I certainly want to get to that. Also, tomorrow on the program, Joe, tomorrow I am going to do the religious freedom recap. That is tomorrow. It's official. I know we have a full show, but I know we have a little bit of time. You see, we're either going to have time at 4 or we're going to have time at 4:30 tomorrow. Okay, I know we don't have time at 5 and 5:30 because we're interviewing Conservative Future and then Scott Flippo. But tomorrow during the first hour I've got to do it. I want to do the recap. I want to go line by line and do the recap of 2015 so we have it in a YouTube video to get out to you guys. What exactly happened with Asa Hutchinson and your religious freedom and the bill that he completely scrapped because Walmart said, scrap this. And I want to go with the history of how he supported it up until the corporate interests got involved. Okay? That is tomorrow on the program, and you don't want to miss that, for sure. Yeah, okay. For our Patreon subscribers, if you guys are listening right now, we have hit a slight snag, I'm told, in the uploading of our Wednesday weekly video. We've been trying all day, but we're gonna. It should be out by tonight sometimes. Hopefully things will start working. Yeah. But anyway, so just stay tuned. You will get that notification in the email when that comes out. Folks, this program is available, this entire broadcast, for free. Okay, for free at paulharrell.com. Click on Video Archives. It's also available, if Facebook doesn't take the video down, at Facebook. It's facebook.com/Paul Talk Show. You can share it with your friends, and we can watch those views go up, and we can imagine, that people are getting nervous in positions of power. You can also get the audio-only podcast at paulharrell.com or the iTunes Store or the SoundCloud app. We're doing everything we can to get our product out there, and we hope that you would download it and subscribe and share with friends. That is all the time that we have for today. I will see you tomorrow, Thursday, 4 o'clock, Arkansas. Thanks so much. Be safe.
Bye.